Oh, hello. Yes, hi. Also, live streaming is ongoing na po.
Right, maybe we can start now, ma'am.
Uh,
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the second day of the third International Conference on Cordillera Studies. You are currently in panel 14 with the title Facets of Food Production and Consumption. I am Olivia, Assistant Professor of Philosophy from UP Baguio, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon's session. Here with me as well is our assistant moderator, Ma'am Paula. If you have questions or concerns during the session, please feel free to use the chat function to reach us both. We'll be happy to assist you. So the way we will proceed would be I'm going to give you some few reminders to organize our session. And then after the reminders, I will introduce the paper presenters, each in turn. And then after that, we'll have a brief summary. After all the presentations are done, we'll have a brief summary and then we'll entertain questions from the participants. I hope that's clear. So our panel is composed of 3 presentations. The authors are Mr. Jeron Cancino from Palawan State University. The second presentation would be from Dr. Teodora Balangkod and team from UP Baguio. And then the third presentation would be from Ms. Asi Purwanti from the International Relations Department of Brawijaya University, Indonesia. Right. So before I introduce our first presenter, I'll give you some reminders. Okay, first, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking to eliminate background noise. Second, please turn off your camera if you think that your video will disrupt the session or distract others. And please do not do cross-talking. Use the Zoom feature for raising a hand or show your physical hand in front of the camera and speak only when recognized by the moderator. That would be me. Fourth, ask for help from our assistant moderators if you need assistance. Again, that would be Ma'am Paula for those who just came in. Fifth, do not post the Zoom meeting details on social media to prevent unscrupulous individuals from intruding the session. Finally, certificates will be distributed after the conference. Other details are being flashed right now in your screens. All right. Yeah, those are your reminders for the session. Now, to start, let me introduce at length our first speaker. The first member of the panel, we'll talk about rice in Palawan labor culture. Mr. Jeron Cancino is an instructor in Palawan State University. He is a graduate of Master of Arts in Education, major in Social Science. He is currently on study leave for a diploma in archaeology, a bridging course for PhD in archaeology. Let's all listen to Mr. Jeron Cancino's presentation.
Hello, I am Jeron Cancino from Palawan State University, and I will be presenting my paper, Rise in Palawan Labor Culture, its changing significance to the production, consumption, and school. So before we start, I want to give an overview of my study by stating my objectives in writing this paper. So first is to describe the cultural changes that have happened among the Palawan on how rice was viewed, produced, and consumed. Another thing is to describe how it affected the school attendance of the Palawan. So as you can see, this is the map of Palawan, and the area on the red square that I have put in the lower part of the map, so that thing is Brooks Point, So that's my area of that's the local of my study. So my methods, I used ethnography as a method. I started my field work sometime during April 2017 to January 2018. So semi-structured interview was used and participant observation, and I also used unstructured interview. Uh, some of my interviews are recorded, but my unstructured interviews were not recorded, but it's just form of conversation. So that's how I crafted my questionnaire for the semi-structured interview from those unstructured. So let's proceed. And background about the Palauan. So obviously they are an indigenous group in in Palawan. They occupy southern part, which are the municipalities of Soprono Española, Brooks Point, Quezon, Rizal, and Bataraza. Their everyday life and some issues like suicide and of course spirituality. Villapa is concerned on the healing practices of the Palawan, while Perez concentrated on the leadership of Palawan. Uh, Actually, there are many more publications about the Palawan that I will not mention because we have very limited time in this presentation. So, as we can see, we have a rich information on their spirituality and IKS. So, I want to uh, first, I want to start on the shift on consumption patterns of Palawan. Of course, it's about rice. And rice, at first, there is a certain point in time where when rice was seen as a ceremonial food. Another, but lately it became a staple food. So this chain of events is the center of my actually this is that thesis statement. So this is the most important thing that I have found out in the research. So to give us a clear idea, clear picture of what is happening, of course, when you're dealing with rice as a ceremonial food, mm, you do not need much because it was just used as an offering to the spirits. It was used in rituals. Of course, they have a ritual called lot where they cook rice on bamboo. And of course, if you're looking at rice as a ceremonial thing, you do not need much of it because you only conduct rituals at least 3 to 5 times a year. So before before planting or on the clearing of the field, and after harvest, that's when you do big rituals. And I have mentioned earlier that the usage of rice have changed, so it has become a staple food. Rice is still viewed as sacred. Yeah, they still can sell it, but more supply of rice will be needed because it will be consumed more. I mean, if you eat rice every day, then you must need much of it. And rice is still planted and harvested in general in Sweden's, but Sweden produce is not enough. Thus, commercial rice was already bought by the Palawan. To proceed to the next slide, I want to present the problem. The shift increased the demand. So from ceremonial or ritual food, it became staple food. Now, the supply is not coping with the demand. That's a basic problem that we are looking at. So, the context of rice production is traditional Sweden rice is not planted to be a staple food in the first place because you only need rice again for rituals. And thus, as demand increase, traditional means of producing rice is being challenged. To add to the problem is the criminalization of Sweden activities. Another thing is climate change. So, of course, the criminalization of Sweden activities have caused the Palawan to actually it has not stopped them from doing Sweden activities, but it limited their activities to one place. Meaning they were allowed to plant rice in one place over a period of time. So if they want to plant kaingin, then use this land and do not clear any more lands for your activities. And it led to soil degeneration, and later it has caused the low uh, low yield of their kaingin rice. And another thing, of course, is climate change. In 2014, uh, my colleagues in Palawan State University College of Sciences have published a paper on how the Palawan was affected by changing weather conditions brought about by climate change and other things associated with climate change. And in this research, uh, I have also seen some of that in the responses given to me by my respondents. So here, these two things caused the yield of rice to be low. So now let us look at it. So the commercial consumption of rice has become a thing. They need rice. They cannot get it from their traditional means. So they need to get it via another means, which is the commercial rice. But no one would give you free rice. That's when you need income. And when you need income, you need new labor or livelihood activities. In this paper, I used labor activities. I used labor culture because for me, I do not see it as only activity because labor culture is a much more different thing. I look at the spirituality of producing rice and the economics and how they view rice. So that's a different thing. So back back to it. The to be able to provide for the demand, they need new labor activities. These labor activities produced more. It has produced new patterns on how the Palawan uh, try to do their subsistence. And the bottom line is food insecurity. So that's when uh, food insecurity takes place. And what better way to present through the experiences of the students. And actually, I started this study because I was puzzled by how my students are failing to go to school. And in the afternoon, they look pale. And of course, I'm concerned because it affected their performance. And now, after reading some literature, and it just popped up in my mind that maybe I can look at the labor activities of the student of the Palawan and how it affects the. At first, I have not seen these concepts, but as it evolved to be like this. So when I asked a mother, it's Nora, and I am asking about the absences of her children. So I I also asked Hilda, and I also asked Ellen. So basically, they have the same response because they said that my children was not able to go to school because we have no food. Okay, so they want their student to go to school, but they have no food, and that affects their performance. Others would just choose to not go to school, and they will fail. They will miss quizzes, they will miss assignments, and many things. And another thing is that children would rather skip school and go to work to help their parents to provide rice. In this case, I asked Norma, and she said that her children decided to stop going to school because she would rather work. So he dropped school, went to the town, and worked there as a sales performance. So rice affected, I think, almost everything in their culture. And so, of course, they have new adaptations. As you can see here, that is a kaingin, that is a Sweden farm. And you can see that between the rice, there are banana trees planted in. And I asked the owner about that, and he said, maybe in the next 2 years, I would not be planting rice anymore because I have that banana, and I can just sell the banana and just buy rice. He mean commercial rice. And here is one of my respondent. She is selling. She's waiting for the buyer of her banana. And by doing paid labor, I have mentioned earlier that they need income, and here comes the income, the source of income. It's by using new products, new crops, and new activities. So paid labors, and in other times they work on rice mills, they work on stores, on bakeries. So that's what they do to help their families. And one interesting thing is that this case, this is a this is a small version of the Banawe rice terraces. I I would I would like to use it as a miniature version because of course it is a hillside, and this is an overlooking site, and they have managed to channel spring water to that so that they can plant irrigated rice. That is a hilly place right there. So this is one of their adaptation, and they have mentioned that it's better than kaingin. They have better yields for that. And that's how they adapt. But of course, spring water could not you could not do that on a larger scale because spring water is very limited and of course not enough. So to conclude the study, so I want to uh, think of it, or I want to say that this is a story of how one commodity, which in this case is rice, can change cultural features and subsistence strategies. So as we can see, we only the shift on the significance of rice from a staple food, from a ritual food to a staple food, have done much of the cultural change, have propelled, I think it propels waves of how they view things differently today. So it is one of the reason why the concept of income was introduced, because before they do not need money. They said that we do not need money. We just need to plant everything. We plant tubers, then we eat it. Then if we have no tubers, then we get from other sources, and that's it. But now they have seen the need for money, and that is happening now. Everything changed, and one, I don't know how to say it, but this thing has already also changed how they do view uh, their practices. For example, their traditions. Uh, in earlier years, or maybe when they were much younger, one of my respondents, who is now dead, actually, said that uh, the rituals they do is very festive. It's on a large scale. All of the community members gather to do the ritual, but today those rituals were not performed because they do not have the resources to do, because of course they need kaingin rice, and since kaingin was consumed uh, as a staple food, that would be a problem if you will feed the whole community. So, and the village elder also said that of course there is the affinity with the non-indigenous community is also a factor, and the entry of Christian missionaries in this part. So in two of the sites, the localities that I have studied, there are two two missionaries, one in each locality. So of course it affected their culture. And one important note is that the term hunger, how they view hunger, the respondents clarified that when they say we do not have food, or in Tagalog, wala kami pagkain, it does not mean that they have nothing to eat, but rather they mean is that they do not have rice, and that's a different thing. So they still have tubers or banana, but they do not have rice. One That is an interesting thing because in their consciousness, rice is food, and other things that are not rice are not food. So in the case of the students, they are just shy to come to school when they do not have rice as lunch. And they would rather go home after the morning classes, or they would eat lunch or they might not come to school at all. And that's only for rice. They have bananas available still. They have tubers, but I think it's more on a bullying thing that happens. And because students also mentioned those things, that they would go up the trees. If they do not have rice, they go up to the trees and they eat whatever available to them. If the student's very diligent in his academics or his classes, but if the students are not that motivated to go to school, then they would rather choose uh, to drop or to skip classes. So that's it. And in the end, I just want to tell that this is a story of socio-cultural change that is happening, and rice is one of the major factor that affected it. And all traditions are slowly forgotten as new labor activities slowly take shape. So as we can see now, there is a new labor culture among the Palawan. So that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jeron, for a very interesting and highly enlightening talk on Palawan labor culture. We're now ready for the second presentation. The second member of the panel will talk about how Cordillera plants may augment income in local communities. Sorry, I'm experiencing some tech problems. Dr. Teodora Balangkod is a faculty member of the Department of Biology, College of Science, UP Baguio. In her stint for more than 30 years in the university, Dr. Balangkod has handled various courses in the biology department such as general botany, plant systematics, plant physiology, plant anatomy, plant ecology, and related courses. Recently, with the offering of Master of Science in Conservation and Restoration Ecology, or MS-CARE for short, she also handles postgraduate courses in advanced ecology. She's very active in research and had published her results in various Web of Science journals. Currently, she is project leader of 2 projects funded by CHED and DOST. She's also presently the program head of the Tuklas Lunas Development Consortium in the Cordillera Administrative Region, which includes 3 collaborating universities in the region, namely St. Louis University, Benguet State University, and UP Baguio. Let's all be excited for Dr. Balangkod's talk.
Good afternoon. The title of my share this afternoon is Tapping the Underutilized Plants in the Cordillera as Flour Supplements for Pastries and Other Food Products to Augment Income of Local Communities. Just a background, the Cordillera Central Range is located in the northern part of Luzon, Philippines. And with a semi-temperate climate, it is a haven of indigenous and endemic plant resources in which the local communities that live within the bounds of the CCR use these resources to sustain their everyday needs. This particular study explored the underutilized plants in the Cordillera that can be tapped to make flour, flour products, and others. To date, some of these plants are not being maximally utilized, and some of these are no longer planted in the backyards or gardens, maybe for various reasons. If you ask me what are underutilized plants, these are defined by Mays et al. As crops or neglected plants that are often indigenous ancient crop species which are still used at some level within the local, national, or even international communities, but have the potential to contribute further to the mix of food sources than they currently do. These are domesticated plant species that have been used for centuries or more for their uses such as food, fiber, fodder, oil, or medicinal properties, but have been reduced in importance over time. According to Padulossi in 2017, a wide range of terminology is used to describe these crops, including terms such as orphan, abandoned, lost, underutilized, and many others. The objective of this research then is to provide an opportunity to augment the family income by making use of the underutilized plants for flour and other food products, which they can use as sources for the family income. By the way, this study is one of the components of a research with several scopes, which is funded by CHED, Dare 2, Cycle 2. These are some of the underutilized plants in the Cordillera. So we have here gabi, okay. We also have galyang, which is oftentimes being fed to hogs, yet it has high nutrient value. We also have ube, different varieties of kamote, cassava. These are all root crops, by the way. And then we also have rattan fruit. We have chesa, which is actually not liked by people in local communities. We also have langka. We have guava and guava mansi. All these plants were used in this particular study for the development of food products. So this is a schematic diagram of how we did the food product development. First stage is the development of flour and powder out of the different plants that we have presented earlier. The first step of which is the selection of raw materials and then the processing of these raw materials such as washing, peeling, and slicing. And after which we have dehydration. We made use of a dehydration machine which was set at 40 degrees centigrade, and the plant material was dried until it becomes brittle. And then after which is we did pulverization, making use of a blender up to such time that we are able to come up with the powder form. And this is actually the flour. And for some raw materials, this was turned into powder. So this is the first stage of product development. And the product that we have produced at this point are actually the primary product. Now, for the primary product, we subjected this to physical-chemical characterization, which includes the indicators such as moisture content, pH level, nutrient analysis, and physical evaluation. And then after which, we developed products from the primary product, which is the flour. Now, for the second stage of product development, we developed here first recipes for the different products. We tried to standardize the recipe, and then we produced the product, we developed the product. We did this over and over up to such time that we are able to come up with a quality product, well, based on the standards of the team at first, subject the products to sensory evaluation. And then if the results of the sensory evaluation is okay, then we standardize the recipe again and then produce more products, which we again subject to storability test, food product nutrient analysis, and then try to sell this or market test this so that we will be able to see how acceptable the product is. So this is the entire process that we adopted in the research. Now, this is just a sample of evaluation that we used following the hedonic scale. And we can see from here that the pasta was evaluated according to color, texture, flavor, overall liking. And then this one is the average. Now, for the other products, there is actually a variation of the different indicators. This is just a sample of the evaluation that we used. And then in this particular slide, this actually is the process that we did for the development of flour from kamote specifically. So we have here kamote. We peeled this, separated the flesh and the peel, and both of which we dehydrated this at 40 degrees centigrade. And then we grind, we pack, labeled, and then stored this primary product up to such time that these are ready for use. Now, the same procedure was applied also to other root crops. Like in this specific example, again, we have the galyang, and then we peel this, okay, separate the peel from the flesh, and then separately dehydrated this, and then we grind these, packed, labeled, and then stored in a sealed container. Now, for the fruit, which is actually the chesa, which is a very interesting underutilized plant, I believe this is the least liked among the fruits that we find in local communities. Well, probably because of the smell and maybe the taste. So we were much interested in developing products from this because of its unlikability. So we first, of course, washed the fruit and then peel this and then separate the peel from the flesh and the seed from the flesh. Now for the seeds, we tried to develop it into coffee. And then for the flesh and the peel, we dehydrated this at 40 degrees centigrade. And then after which we ground this, packed and labeled, and then store this again in sealed containers. Now, these are the different flours that we were able to produce. And interestingly, you can see that they exhibit different characteristics, like they have different colors, they have different texture, and well, for colorful ones, we are actually amazed. And these flowers were used to produce secondary products. Now, the different flour were actually placed in packaging materials. And we made use here of bottles because we wanted to retain the freshness as long as we can so that we can develop more products out of this. Now, this is a table of the different physicochemical properties of the developed flour. And as you can see, we always compare the different flours with that of the commercial flour, which is wheat flour. Specifically, we made use of the all-purpose flour. And if we try to compare the crude protein, um, still the all-purpose flour exhibit a higher amount as compared with the rest. Although, of course, one interesting flour, the cassava flour, contains a higher amount of protein compared with the all-purpose flour and the rest. Okay, as far as carbohydrates is concerned, some of the other flours exhibited higher amounts of carbohydrates relative to the all-purpose flour. So that's how we tried to compare the nutrient content of the different flours that we were able to develop and compared it with the commercial all-purpose flour. We can see from here that for some of the indicators, the different flour developed were higher. In some other indicators, these have lower amount. Now we can see under moisture content that all-purpose flour has 15.3% moisture, whereas the other flours have lesser, which means to say that as far as storability is concerned, these developed flours could last longer as compared with the all-purpose flour. Now for the food product development, we started from the primary product, which is the flour, and then tried to develop secondary food products out of these different flours. So some of the secondary products from the flour that we have developed are as follows. We developed noodles from the different flour, and of course, we again compared the different noodles with that of the noodles that was developed from the all-purpose flour. Okay, so these are the different noodles. As you can see, different colors, very interesting colors. Actually, one of our favorite noodle is that coming from the chest of flour. It's best for making spaghetti actually. So we dried this as mentioned in the procedure and tried to pack this again in this particular packing material. And this was actually market tested in one of our activities. We also have this particular process or procedure of developing or making noodles. So we form dough, and then after which we flatten the dough and then pass it through the noodle cutter, which you can see from here. And then we now have the noodles. And then for the noodles, we tried several ways by which we can store this longer. For some, we tried to boil this first and then dry. For some samples, we tried to directly dry this in a dehydrator set at 40 degrees centigrade, pack, labeled, and store this. For the other products, we also have pastries and other baked products. And we tried here the mini tarts, which we developed from the different flours and also filled with different fillings. Okay, so some contained fillings which were made from the guava, We have the guava jelly or the guava mansi jelly, which we use as fillings for these tarts. And then we also developed tea cookies. This is one of the favorite of our clients or customers. These are were made from different flours, and interestingly, it contains nuts and chocolate chips inside. That's why it tastes so good. Now, other than that, we also have cookies which were formed into different shapes. In this particular example, we have rose cookies because it is shaped like a rose. And actually, this is also one of the favorites of our clients. The tea cookies were packed in this kind of packaging because this particular package was all we have, which is available in the market. And then we also have muffins made from different ratios of the flour that we developed with that of the commercial flour. So we have these different flavors also. And then we also have pocket pies. We tried to be more creative because we wanted to compete with the other products in the market. So we tried to adapt some forms like this one. Um, these different pies were filled with different fillings. And this one we also placed in different fillings here. We could say that this tastes also so good. And then we also made breads in different forms, not the usual. It's a form of squash. Okay, it's a bit tedious, but at least we are able to make the product more, look more palatable. And I'm pretty sure that this is more appreciated than some of the other products. We also have here rolls, okay, as you can see. And we also produced here pizza dough, but we didn't pay particular much attention to this. We just tried it and it's good also. And then we also have non-baked products like pulburon uh, in different flavors, as you can see here. One of the favorite pulburon is actually made from chesa flour. Here we also pack the pulburon in this particular package. We can also place them in boxes if we like, but we chose this because it is less expensive, so that it will also make the product cheaper. So this is also enhanced by different fruits like lemon. We also have langka flavor and others. Now, this is how pulburon was made. So we first cook the flour, the different kinds of flour, and then after which we mix the different ingredients like jellies, langka concentrate, and the like. And then after which these are molded in um, molders, pulveron molders, so that we have here the end product, which is actually placed in refrigerator so that it will harden faster, and then wrapped, labeled, packed, and stored. Now we also tried coming up with chips here using the different flours, and we don't we did not develop this further because the process is tedious, and apart from that it also gets soft as time passes. So we tried to shelf this for a while. Maybe later we'll try to improve on this, but it tastes good also as a secondary product. Now, we also love this product because it's a bit different from the rest of the ice cream that is sold in the market. This is a semi-vegan ice cream. Why? Because the milk that we use is actually um, produced from soya beans. By the way, this is not our original product. This is a product which was developed by a faculty from Benguet State University, but we adopted the process and make use of the milk to um, make our semi-vegan ice cream. We have different flavors also of this, and one of the favorites is guava mansia flavored ice cream, lemon flavored ice cream, gabi, kamote, and also um, others. So here, the taste also is not so sweet because one of our aim is to produce a more nutritious and less sugar product. Now, we also developed other products from the other underutilized plants, like, for example, jellies from guava mansi and guava, which we use again as flavorings for the other products. Some of it were sold as is, and it is actually very saleable because, again, there is less sugar in our jellies. And then we also developed products from the rattan fruit. Okay, so since this one has a very, very sour taste, sometimes it is not liked by some people. So we try to develop products from this. So we combined it with kamote, and the other product we combined it with gabi. And we assigned names, which is actually based on the two names of the raw materials. We have kamote, and rattan fruit. And we also have gablit, gabi, and litoko. So we tried to um, combine the names of the raw materials to be able to come up with a new name of the product. So these soft candies were packed, no, in different packaging. So we tried different packaging materials. Here we place it individually in plastic containers. And then we also have packed this also in boxes to look more attractive. And recently we made use of this plastic, colored and designed plastic to put our soft candies. So here we also made use of this packaging material, which we found in the market. It's a little bit attractive, so we tried to pack it in this particular packaging. And then at one time, we observed that there was an oversupply of vegetables coming from the farmers. And we tried to think of products that we can do or we can come up with from this oversupply of vegetables. And for the herbs, like for example, celery, onions, carrots, and others, parsley, we tried to gather them, get them from the farmers, and then dehydrated this and put this in this particular packaging because this can be used to mix with our noodles. Okay. Now, there was once also an oversupply of lemon, so we tried to preserve the lemon by um, coming up with lemon powder because we just dehydrated the peel, the peel of the lemon. And here we put them in these small packaging materials, and it was actually very saleable. Now, for these lemons, we actually separated the peel, and this is the one that we dried. Now for the flesh, we tried to cut this as attractively as we can, and then also dehydrated this, pack this in separate containers, in individual containers, and sold this also because this actually can be used as an infusion to make lemon water. Okay, so after we have perfected, well, a little bit, our recipes, we tried to have this evaluated and assessed by a bigger group. And fortunately, we were able to test the products to a bigger group, to women who were invited by Councilor Tabanda at one time. And we have them we had our products tested by this group, and we were able to get their feedbacks for further improvement. Now, we also had the opportunity to test market our products at the Sunshine Park in one of the activities of um, Baguio City. So we displayed our products, and we were able to check on which one is actually um, well liked by the customers. So there we displayed all our products here, including the raw materials, so that they can see from where the different products were made. And then also we also got feedbacks from um, personalities like the DOST chair, and also Kidlat Tahimik there, and other people who visited our display or exhibit. So from here, we were able also to get feedbacks, which we also incorporated in the improvement of the products. And again, since this is a funded research, we were very happy that we got a positive comment from the CHED chairman, Dr. Prospero Rivera III, and he said that he liked the Chesa Pulveron much. And of course, we were happy to note that our products are appreciated. Now, in summary, we could say that even our underutilized plants that are just left in our backyards or are found in our backyards, this can be utilized to produce primary and secondary products. And I hope that this particular presentation can inspire some people to be able to develop products from underutilized plants. I would like to end this presentation by giving you the reasons why or what motivated us to conduct this particular research. We know very well that natural resources around us have sustained local communities by providing their needs, especially food. And we have a lot of these natural resources, mostly underutilized in the Cordillera region. And we wanted to develop products because we wanted to enhance the value of these raw materials. It's just like so-called value adding to our natural resources so that they can be appreciated. And then we want to produce nutritious foods and food products out of these underutilized plants. And we want to develop food products that are at par with the other products that are liked by children and adults, like, for example, Jollibee and other fast food chain offers. So that actually the pocket pies were based from Jollibee's one of Jollibee's food products, which is actually very saleable. And with this particular slide, I would like to thank the Cordillera Studies Center for inviting us to present our results, and also to all participants. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Balangkod, for a really interesting talk and for walking us through the different procedures which your research deployed to produce those really enticing pastries. The pictures are making me want to have a second lunch. I hope you are all enjoying the session. Before I introduce our third speaker, let me just reiterate some few reminders we gave a while ago. Please make sure that your mic is on mute as you enter the meeting or as the session is ongoing. And if you have questions for the first two talks, you are free to type them in the chat even now. Also, would like to request for everybody to keep their questions clear and concise so we can have a wonderful engagement with our speakers later. Right. The third member of the panel will talk about food security in Indonesian Papua. Ms. Asi Purwanti is a lecturer in International Relations Department of Brawijaya University, Indonesia. She has a bachelor's degree in international relations from Gadjah Mada University, Indonesia, and a master's degree in international politics from University of Melbourne, Australia. She worked in Papua, Indonesia for 5 years before she joined Brawijaya University. Her research interests include international politics, foreign policy analysis, human security, food security, and culture in international politics. She is now pursuing a PhD degree in the Institute of Political Science, National Sun Yat-sen University, Taiwan. Her main topic of research is related to food security in Indonesia. Let's all hear from Ms. Asi Purwanti.
Good afternoon. Thank you for Moderator for the time. It is an honor for me to present my research today in the third International Conference on Cordillera Studies. The title of my presentation is Food Security in Indonesia, Rice Dependency as One of Sources for the Poverty Among Indigenous People in Papua and West Papua, Indonesia. For my presentation today, I would like to present it as follows. I will begin with introduction, then followed by the research question, then the research method, followed by the description of the findings, and then I will finish with some conclusions, and if we have time, we can follow by a discussion. For introduction, I would like to begin with the background on why I chose this topic. This topic was based on my experience when I worked in Papua from 2001 to 2007, and then when I worked with the community in rural areas in the highlands of Manokwari, West Papua in 2009. I saw that the community need to go to the city to buy rice, although they can easily grow some sweet potatoes. To go to the city to buy rice add more financial burden for them because they must pay for the transportation cost, which is not cheap. And then the question in this research is, the study looks at the impact of rice dependency on poverty among indigenous people in West Papua and Papua provinces in Indonesia. My argument is that the dependency on rice has contributed to the higher number of poverty in both provinces. This study is a descriptive study applying qualitative method using secondary data. I admit the limitation of the study. Due to some conditions, I cannot go to the fields to Papua and West Papua to collect primary data. For this study, I use secondary data from previous studies, statistical archive, and news. For the findings of the research, I would like to begin with some facts of how Indonesian people have high dependency on rice for their daily diet. Rice has been a staple food for Indonesians. Most Indonesians are addicted to eat rice and therefore they do not want to consume other food as their source of energy. There is a stigma within the society that in a popular saying that if you haven't had rice, then you have not eaten. The rice farming and rice culture originally came from island of Java and Sumatra. After independence in 1945, the Indonesian national government issued some policies that contributed for the growing dependency on rice in Indonesia society. The Javanese diaspora to other regions in Indonesia, which they spread their agricultural tradition and values, also affecting the changes of agricultural tradition in the rest of islands of Indonesia. Under President Suharto, his administration was determined to run the Green Revolution policy in 1969. In 1984, Indonesia had achieved a self-sustainability on rice. Due to the overproduction of rice, the government at that time forced people to consume rice, including the Papuan. In 2019, data from Indonesian National Statistics Bureau shows that the annual rice consumption in Indonesia is 140 kilograms per capita. The high dependency on rice in Indonesia is shown by the data that among all food consumed by the Indonesian people, 95% of the food consumption is rice. The dependency on rice in Indonesia increased when the government of Indonesia launched the Raskin program. Raskin program is Rice Subsidized Program or Rice for the Poor in 2008. When the poor can buy rice at cheaper price, therefore they do not want to consume other food. Next is about Papua Province and West Papua Province. Papua and West Papua Province is a former Dutch colony. Papua became part of Indonesia as a province in 1969, formerly known as Irian Barat Province. Under Suharto administration, the name was changed into Irian Jaya in 1973 and then became Papua on December 30, 1999. Following the application of Indonesian decentralization law, Papua then divided into two provinces, which is Papua and West Papua. This picture shows how beautiful Papua and West Papua are, but also show how the infrastructure are still a major problem there. The two pictures below on the right show us the transportation conditions. The community in outreach areas should face these challenges to go to the city to buy their rice, and the cost of the transportation is not cheap. If we discuss about Papua and West Papua, we need to look at the situation related to these provinces. We call this as the Papua questions. Herewith are some problems related to Papua. Max Lane summarized this problem as Papua discontents, racism, and nationalism. Racism problem emerged because of the physical difference between Papuans from other ethnics in Indonesia. Separatism. Papuan discontent led to the emergence of the separatist movement to gain independence from Indonesia. So there is a crisis of Indonesian nationalism among indigenous Papuans. And then about inequality. Another discontent within the Papuan is the wide gap of development with other provinces in Indonesia. Papua is blessed with abundant natural resources, however, the Papuans do not get the benefits from that. And then about poverty. In 2018, Papua and West Papua Province share the position to hold the highest rank of poverty compared to other Indonesian provinces. In Papua, there is 27.74%, and in West Papua, there is 23.01% of their populations are poor. From some studies show that there are several causes for the poverty in Papua. In Indonesia, 25 million people are still living with poverty. Access to food is one element of the poverty criteria. The next factor is the legacy of New Old regime from 1967 to 1998. that did not prioritize the development in the eastern region of Indonesia, including Papua. Jakarta had ignored Papua for decades. This brought a wide gap in all aspects of development, including infrastructure and human resources, compared to the modern Java. The local government have problems with inefficiency of budget management and allocation. Although the decentralization law allows more funds flows from Jakarta to Papua and West Papua, the local government face challenges on human resources to spend the fund. Related price dependency and poverty in Papua and West Papua is one factor is also about the impact of the Indonesian national policy on rice self-sufficiency. Since 1969, the government does not put more efforts to encourage the Papuans to consume their local food. Rice is too expensive for Papuans, particularly for those who live in outreach areas, since they need to prepare more money for the transportation fee. Rice price per kilogram in Papua Highlands can up to 25,000 Indonesian rupiah or US dollar 1.75 US dollar compared to the national average price for 9,500 rupees. Related to the access to food and the supply to food. Papuans in outreach area face difficulties to access rice. Since rice should be imported from other islands of Indonesia, there are some risks on the stability of rice supply. Another problem is the lack of food diversity. Changes on the eating habit among indigenous Papuans from sagu or sweet potato to rice. Data from Food Security Bureau Indonesia Ministry of Agriculture from 2009 to 2013 in West Papua, the consumption for tuber crops has been declined to 19.94%, while rice consumption has been increased up to 51.3%. In Papua, rice consumption is 35.61%, while consumption for tuber crop is 30.39%. This is the challenge for us because rice has replaced the local crops that abundant in the areas and originally has been the source of energy to consume by Papuans. Local crops in Papua and West Papua consist of sagu that grows in wetland and riverside, and then sweet potatoes that grows in seashores area, and then yam or taro that grows in highlands. Why Papuans are now getting more dependent to rice? There is a belief in the community, in the Papuan community, that if you eat sweet potatoes, you will become stupid. This made more Papuans want to have rice for their meals. The next one is related to the transmigrasi or transmigration policy. This policy is to move people from Java Island to other islands in Indonesia. Had been initiated by the Dutch colonial government in 1905. The goal is to move the population from overpopulated Java to other less populated islands. The Javanese people can spread their knowledge on farming, particularly rice farming to other islands. This policy was enhanced under Suharto regime. The impact is Japanese agriculture values and eating habits changes the traditional value of indigenous Papua. Dependency on rice among indigenous Papuans is also because of the indigenous Papuans find that buying rice in the market is easier than planting or harvesting sagu or planting and harvesting sweet potatoes. And then it's also about lack of knowledge on how to modernize sagu plantation. Although the sagu plantation in Papua and West Papua approximately cover around 5 million hectares of area, the sagu production should be enough to feed the local people. For the recent development, as we are now facing the pandemic, and the situation is also affecting the Papuans. The pandemic of COVID-19 is a momentum for Papuans to go back to plant sweet potatoes and other tuber crops and consume more sagu. Then, for the conclusion, I can describe as follows. The changing lifestyle from consuming tuber crops to consume rice has contributed to more financial burdens for the Papuans. Rice consumption habit brought by other Indonesians from other islands is affecting the changing of eating habit among indigenous Papuans. This including the changing of their diet from consume sagu to sweet potatoes to consume rice. The Indonesian government is still conducting the national policy that prioritizes on rice self-sufficiency. The government faced some difficulties to enhance policy of food diversification or local food consumption. The community is getting used to buy rice, although it comes with higher price. So for the government is need more campaigns to reverse the stigma within the society that having sagu or sweet potatoes is equivalent with having rice. Actually, the trend for food security in Papua is the growing dependency on instant noodle. Another trend for food dependency among indigenous Papuan is their growing consumption for instant noodle. This can be an interesting research for the next research. This is my bibliography. Terima kasih and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parwanti, for such a comprehensive research on Indonesian Papua. All right. May I request, please, our speakers to switch on their camera so we can spotlight you before we proceed to the Q&A. As a reminder to everybody, you can send your questions via chat or you can raise your hand. Also, would like to remind everyone to be concise and polite with their questions. Okay. There are already first questions in the chat. Sir Roland asked, and I think Dr. Balangkod answered it very briefly, but for the information of everybody who cannot access it right now, the question is, where can we access the research paper of Dr. Balangkod's team? Are there plans to make the technology processes recipes available to the general public through video conferences or on-site technology transfer trainings? Dr. Balangkod, would you like to elaborate a bit more on your answer po?
Okay. Thank you, Olive. Actually, we are still in the process and we're preparing for the tech transfer part of the research. So we're just awaiting for the release of the next budget, but we were able to communicate already with 2 groups where we can share the results of the study, and hopefully they will adapt it for livelihood. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Maybe we can wait for further updates on that, Sir Ronald. An anonymous question directed to Sir Cancino. May I read it? It says, you described the shift of rice as a ceremonial or sacred crop to being a staple food among the Palauan. Could you please elaborate on the factors that led to such a shift? Sir Jeron, maybe we can switch on our mic.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry,
It was disconnected, sorry.
oh, okay. Let me just read it again, sir.
Yeah.
It says you describe the shift of rice as a ceremonial or sacred crop to being a stable food among the Palauan. Could you please elaborate on the factors that led to such a shift?
When I asked the respondents, one of the factors they have mentioned is when they got to schooling, and back when they were young, they said that they were being bullied for eating tubers during lunchtime, and I think that is one of the factors. Actually, there could be many factors because they have been living with close affinity with the migrant communities. So like in my site, uh, you could walk around 400 meters, then there is a community owned by migrants. So, and those migrants hire them in their farms, and they got used to eating rice as a staple food, and maybe that is the reason. Actually, I have not dug well around that, pero gusto ko pa siyang aralin in the future.
Right. Maraming salamat po, Sir Jeron. Question for Miss Purwanti. Okay. Great to learn about Indonesian Papua through your research, Miss Purwanti. These days, are there attempts both at the family and national level to diversify food diet and perhaps potentially reduce dependence on rice? I know that you briefly discussed this, but could you please explain more?
Okay. Thank you for the questions. Yes, actually, the governments always have always promote the effort that recommend everyone in the family level or in the society level, even in the national level, to like have diversity on food, not only rice, but still the culture of rice is like the culture or the tradition of eating rice in Indonesia is really really strong. So actually, and now, but now because of the pandemic, because of the some national regulation to do the social distancing, and some people cannot go to the city very easily to buy rice. Now they are go back to plant their local staple food. So I think the effort is always there, but the society still have the strong culture that eating rice or rice diet is really still strong. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Question for Dr. Balangkod. Ma'am, did you and your team also encounter challenges in engaging with local communities and perhaps making them receptive to your proposal?
Well, so far, we have not encountered any problem because I think it depends on how you communicate with the local communities. So far, the communities that we have worked with are very receptive of our activities, and they even are very supportive of uh, the permits that we have to get, and also they would like to organize and invite us to transfer the technology to them. So far there's none. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Balangkod. Before we hear from Dr. Bawanan, Dr. Balangkod asked a question for Sir Jeron. May I read it or you want to ask it live, ma'am?
Kindly read it for me, please.
Okay, pa. In the Cordillera, there are specific rice varieties that are made to rice wine or locally called tapwe, which are offered during ritual activities. Are there also rice varieties that are identified as sacred in Palawan?
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, all the varieties of kaingin rice is considered sacred, and particular, it is interesting because the Palawan have had a ritual gathering called tabad, and that tabad is the one they use for making rice wine, the tabad variety. So they had a ritual for that. They drink the tabad, the rice wine, uh, in uh, in a jar, and they, as a community, they drink it through a bamboo, and they drink it together. So that's the basic feature of that ritual gathering.
Right. Interesting. May I just clarify, sir? The variety is called tabad The
And
wine version is also called tabad.
yeah.
Right. Okay. Also very interesting, Miss Asi said in Indonesia they call it tape. It's a bit close to tapue in the Cordillera. Right. I think this was already touched upon a while ago, but maybe you can elaborate, Miss Asi Purwanti. The question says, may we know what responses the local government in the area of your study have done to respond to the food security situation in Indonesian Papua?
Okay. Thank you for the question. The local government of West Papua and Papua still follow the national policy, which is still prioritize of the rice self-sufficiency. So it's kind of like really like not like really different policy, like you ask people to go back to their local food, but also still the national policy that have to follow the rest of the local government to also have to self-sufficiency of rice. So this is actually the biggest problem of Indonesia, like I mentioned in my presentation, is like the policy of the Indonesian government. So it's actually like dualism of policy, like in one hand we have to get this rice self-sufficiency, but also you ask people to have food diversity. So, and also like for me, the biggest problem is also the attitude of or behavior of the society, which is like really consider rice as their main staple of food. But in the reality, we have more, or like we have many more choices of food, but we still it tries for our staple food. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the last question, maybe we can hear from Dr. Bawanan.
Thank you, Miss Olive. Thank you for the 3 presentations. My question is for Dr. Balangkod. Ma'am Dora, you tested both the main crop and the peelings of these crops for producing primary products like flours, right? So I'd like to know if this can also be used for making use of the peelings of, like, for example, potatoes and other vegetables here in Baguio, wherein these are considered to be unutilized as well, the peelings.
Actually, we did, yes. We tried to produce the secondary products out of this. That's why I mentioned that we separated the peelings and the flesh. They also taste very good. There's just a slight difference on the nutrient content, but generally they can be developed into secondary products.
Thank you po. Right. Maybe we can entertain more. If there are more questions from the audience, we can have a bit of an extension if you have further questions, either through the chat or by raising your hand. Going once. Okay, one more. For Sir Jeron, what are your recommendations for the local government in Palawan to look into the situation? Do you have recommendations, sir?
That's a hard one actually. But I think my recommendation would be of course the context of my research is based on the indigenous people education. So I was an elementary teacher before I got to the university. So my recommendation would be on strengthening of the feeding program of elementary schools, because At the moment, the feeding program uh, has guidelines that are not consistent with the true needs of the indigenous communities, because the basis for the participants of the feeding program is more on the BMI, but sometimes we could not accurately compute the BMI because in many cases our students have we do not have the accurate data of the birth dates of the students, so we do not know how old they were really, and that's a big thing because if we do not know the real details, we could not get the right services to the right person. So that's one. And another is maybe we could change we could promote a positive culture in schools, because like Ma'am Asi have pointed out, I think we must decolonize our perspective on food, because as I have mentioned in the conclusions that uh, they have a lot of food sources. They have banana, they have tubers, and Ma'am Balangkod have presented very interesting points on introducing these underutilized uh, plant products, and maybe we could capitalize on that. Uh, we should try to end this colonial mentality, and because rice started as a, I think that's a product of colonization. That's a product of our colonial mentality on, especially for the Palawan, uh, that they suffered from bullying because they do not eat rice in the past, and that's not too distant. So maybe more on cultural education. That would be my that would be my short answer. And of course, wala namang mga politiko namin dito, sana tigilan na nila yung land grabbing.
Thank you, Sir Jeron. Yeah, no more questions. I think we do have some announcements after this, and please stay for the photo ops for our documentation. But before we do all of those, everybody please join me in congratulating our wonderful presenters. Your insights are really inspiring. Their transformative potential is massive. And I hope our young scholars and researchers are taking down notes from your experiences and insights. Okay. Congratulations again, and thank you, Miss Asi, Dr. Balangkod, and Mr. Jeron. For our announcements, thank you for attending this afternoon session. We'll have another session on Monday. That's the 19th of July for day 3. The conference will start at 9 a.m. Replays of the sessions are available on our website. It's written in the chat, or it's linked in the chat. Okay. May we request everybody, if you can, to please switch on your video for our documentation.
Hello. Hi, guys. So, unahin ko po muna. I'll take a picture of our panelists first. So, 1, 2, and with you, man din, Ma'am Ale. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. Now for our panel, for our audience, for everybody who stayed with us, let me turn on mine too, pala. Okay. So, for already in 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. I hope you stay safe and well, and see you on Monday. Good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Sige po. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Ma'am Paula, do we have additional
Yes, po.
instructions for our
No,
panel?
okay na. Okay na. I'm just waiting for everybody to.
All right.